What's up guys, Jason here, coming at you with the final part of my DM Sets Ranked series, where I look at all of the sets released in the DM English TCG and rank them from worst to best. In the last two videos I looked at the sets I thought weren't so good and the sets that I thought were kind of okay. In today's video I'm going to bring you what I consider to be the cream of the crop. Now these are the sets I am most likely to buy if I were to walk into a store and they had Duel Masters cards for sale. Let's be real, if I saw any sets today I would buy them, but you get the picture. As a quick refresher, the categories or the criteria I am using to help govern my choices are: can I pull any iconic cards from the set? How many playable cards are there in this set? And can I play a good sealed format with this set? Now that that's out of the way, let's get this party started. Starting off, we have Blast-O-Splosion of Gigantic Rage. This was the 11th set in the TCG, the second set to give us multi-civ cards, and the first set to introduce the Wave Striker mechanic. So Wave Striker, similar to Survivors, get an ability when there are multiple of them on the field. In the foils department, I think this set heavily benefits from the Miraculous line of spells. We have Miraculous Plague, very strong spell. I think it's on the Hall of Fame in the OCG. Miraculous Meltdown, also on the Hall of Fame, I believe. It's a pretty interesting card, can be used as a comeback card for control decks. Miraculous Rebirth, very neat combo card. Evil Incarnate, yeah, I don't care about him. Miraculous Snare is also a very strong card in my opinion, one of the best forms of removal in the game, when you consider it's harder to get a creature out of your shields than it is to get them out of mana or your graveyard. That could be pretty good. And we also have Miraculous Truce, which I don't think is very good, but you know, it forms part of the family, so I would say it's pretty notable in that right. You got another shiny Wave Striker in Klujadras, but I don't think he's very good, so let's not talk about him. Warlord Elzonius, I have talked about him more and more as of late. I think he's a very strong boss card and makes gladiators viable, I suppose. And Heavyweight Dragon, sort of not really. I mean, he's a shiny dragon, so that makes him interesting to say the very least. Now, in terms of playable cards, there are a couple of fringe picks here. I feel like this set gives us the best Wave Strikers, so we get Azra in this set. I think Aqua Trickster's pretty good if you're rocking water, as is Revival Soldier, wholly inoffensive in my view. We also have Jagila the Hidden Pillager, whose Wave Striker ability is your opponent drops 3 cards at random from their hand, so if you thought Cranium Clamp was good, you ain't seen nothing yet. We've also got Eviscerating Warrior Loomis. He's kind of like a burst shot, I don't like him that much. Sabian Tark, I'm a big fan of this guy. I think he is probably one of the scariest Wave Strikers to deal with. Macho Melon, Ninja Pumpkin, they're not bad either, especially Macho Melon. I think he's underrated. He's 2 mana, so that's very notable. And I forgot to mention the most important Wave Striker, Merly the Oracle, who powers up everyone. So yeah, a lot of good Wave Strikers here, and I do consider Wave Strikers a viable archetype. I think they're pretty awesome. We've also got Belix. This card is actually very hard to get. I've been browsing some Japanese websites like Amazon Japan and TCG Republic. This guy always seems to be out of reach for me. Similar to Sarius, he's 2 mana 3k, but he allows you to retrieve a spell from your mana zone when you summon him. Another cool card, you guys know I like this card, Emergency Typhoon, even though I am slowly beginning to be disillusioned with it. I don't think it's as good as I originally thought. But you drop the 2 cards, then discard a card at random from your hand. Great way to cycle through your cards, I guess, if you're not doing much with your 2 mana. Why not, I suppose? Also got Lucky Ball, a great card, I think, for mid-range aggressive kind of decks. When you put him onto the field, and your opponent has 3 shields or less, drop to 2 cards. So it rewards you for breaking shields, which I kind of like. What else have we got here? Relative Ruin is interesting. Choose a number, show your hand to your opponent, and discard from it each card that has that cost. Then your opponent does the same. So I suppose you could I don't know what you could do with it. Maybe like you call 6 and then your opponent drops their power spells. I don't know. It's an interesting card. I haven't tested it. Don't own any copies, but thought I'd mention that. Tauntaun Crunch is kind of okay, I suppose. It's in between Tornado Flame and Phantom Dragon's Flame. Hardy Cap and Polygon, sort of noteworthy in the sense that it's good for Fire Nature Rush. Outside of that, maybe not so much. We've got Rainbow Gate 2. It's like a dimension gate for multicolored creatures that costs 1 less. And then we have this line of multicolored spells. So Rise and Shine, this is actually terrible. It's a completely inferior submarine project, and this came out after, so I don't know what they were thinking, but whatever. Live and Breathe, I think, could be very neat. Whenever you summon a creature this turn, search your deck, you may take a creature from your deck and summon it. Well, I mean, like, you know, creature with the same name, I should say that. That makes a very notable difference. But Live and Breathe, I think this could be a very fun and interesting combo card for mid-range decks. We've also got Hide and Seek. I don't think this card is great. Not terrible. It's a combination between Spiral Gate and Ghost Touch. Slash and Burn. I think this card's pretty interesting. Not as good as I originally thought it was. It's a shield burn. It's a shield burn kind of card. Basically, it works best if you have any board clears. So you kill a shield for each of your opponent's creatures you destroyed this turn. So I guess you got to pair it with like Searing Wave or Declawaz or something like that. Reap and Sow, also not amazing, combines Mana Crisis and Fairy Life, but it's just kind of there. Yeah. So, yeah, pretty good set overall, I would say, just because it gives us so many Wave Strikers. I think this set actually makes for a viable set for sealed format, because you have a lot of low maintenance creatures in here. You have some interesting spells to spice up the game. Unlike Survivors, however, these Wave Strikers seem to play quite well off each other, so you don't really need too much to get them going. I imagine you can just play like one Merly and then one Matcha Melon, and then you're pretty much good to go. And so it almost sort of like becomes a race to see who can summon the most Wave Strikers. Okay, I don't know, I think that thought kind of got away. But I think this set is pretty balanced in the sense that you have a lot of interesting multi-civ cards, you have some cool Wave Strikers, and I'm sure you have some other gimmicky monsters too. This guy's got Silent Skill, yeah. So I think Blastosplosion, a set I thought very low of previously, I think it's a pretty good set. For those of you who have been paying close attention, you will notice that the remaining sets we have yet to cover are actually the biggest sets, and in general I don't like big sets because that means it statistically decreases the chance of you pulling the card that you want to pull, but it just so happened that these sets were really good in my opinion. Now, Stompatrons is the set that gave us Crewbreaker. Not really a game-breaking mechanic, but it's memorable, sort of in the form of Cucatron Gargantua, I guess, if you like Survivors. It also gave us tap ability, so rather than having the creature attack, you could tap it and something would trigger. Not the most memorable ability, but I suppose it's good enough. Now for the foils, we have some really awesome foils here in the form of Crazed Valkyrie. In my view, the best Initiate evolution. Super good, very versatile card, and I have a lot of fun with him. This guy, not so memorable. Crystal Jouster, definitely one of the coolest Liquid People arts, in my opinion, even though this isn't particularly playable. We have another Survivor evolution here. We've got Daedalus, who, as far as I'm concerned, is actually one of the better, more memorable base demon commands. Maybe that's just me. Obviously, Big Bad Bull Medius. Pretty sure the protagonist in the Duel Masters anime Shobu had a Bull Medius, and this guy is just very playable. So competitively and very iconic. So there's that. We've also got, okay, I don't really want to talk about Ultramantis, but I do have to mention that I think he is one of the better giant insect evolutions at the very least. And last but not least, we have the Invincible line of spells: Invincible Aura, Invincible Technology, Invincible Abyss, Cataclysm, and Invincible Unity. So if you've watched Andrew's video, the DM Toolbox, he talks about the Invincible spells quite a lot. I don't consider them particularly good, and that's what Andrew tries to fix in that video, but I think they're pretty iconic in that right. I'm pretty sure that they are the most expensive cards mana-wise in the English game. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that that's the case. When it comes to playable cards, naturally with big sets, you'll have a lot of duds. However, let's just go through them, some of the ones that I think are pretty good. So Davatori is a decent handguard, so before we had Terra Dragon Archidelacerna, we had Davatori Seeker of Clouds. I suppose if you're looking to make a mono light deck, he's a pretty good pick, but basically 6 mana, 5500, summon him for free if your opponent tries to discard him, so I don't think that's terrible. We've also got Rain of Arrows. This is a card that I like to talk about a lot. It's a great anti-darkness card, so it helps you make up for the fact that you don't run darkness, I guess. And even if you do run darkness, you could use it for additional discard in the early game. Could be very annoying for opponents. Vessin, you look the Oracle. I don't think these cards are super duper notable, but because Wise Starnord exists, they make great evolution bait at only costing 1 mana. What else have we got? I'm pretty sure there was another light card that I missed out. Yes, here we go. Phobos Sanctum Guardian Q. As far as power mana ratios go, I feel like this set did a lot to improve that for survivors. So 6 mana 4k, search your deck for a spell. I think that's actually pretty decent. I think another thing that makes Phobos particularly memorable is that he fits very well into non-survivor decks. That's something not a lot of other creatures can say. So good job, Phobos. This guy's a gladiator. He can evolve into Warlord Elzonius, who we talked about a little bit earlier. I don't know if that's relevant or not. Aha! Energy Stream! So you guys know how much I love to talk about drawing cards in the Water Civ. Well, this set gave us Energy Stream. Thankfully, it's a common. I remember my friends and I bought a couple of packs of Stompatrons a couple years ago on eBay. I think we bought 6 packs and pulled 3 Energy Streams, so we were really stoked about that. Now, what else have we got here? I'm just going to shout out Madrillenfish, just because he's kind of like Hunterfish, but Gelfish, same race as Illusionary Merfolk. Yeah. We've also got Ripple Q. This card is a survivor. I think it can be very good if you want to create board states that immobilize your opponent. So you just keep summoning stuff, and then you have Spike Strike, and then who cannot be blocked. Then you have ascending power levels in the form of Smashhorn and Blazosaur. And if you have Giggling, well, you don't have to worry about power levels because everyone has Slayer. So yeah, Ripple, I think as a survivor, he has some potential. We've also got Shock Hurricane. Yeah, this card I think is pretty interesting. I tried to make a deck with it, but it's not that good. Maybe you guys can give me some help there, but Shock Hurricane. Thrash Crawler, another very notable card. As you know, I like to talk about this guy and shoehorn him into all of my control decks. He's just very useful to have around. Spiralgate, I think this is the first reprint card we are covering. This set was the first set in the English game to give us reprints in general. It gave us a reprint for Spiralgate, gave us a reprint for Deathsmoke. I'm not sure if I'm missing any, but Spiralgate and Deathsmoke. So we all know how much I like Spiralgate. So we have Deathsmoke over here. Future Slash can be used to deck your opponent, I suppose. Kind of a degenerate strategy, and I don't think it's particularly good. Just thought I'd mention that. I also have to mention that this was the first set to give us Slayer blockers, so we have that in Cursed Pincher, 4 mana 2k Slayer blocker, we have Gigarif, 6 mana 4k Slayer blocker, and then we also have, sort of not really, we have Zorvaz the Bone Crusher. He's kind of like a super bloody Skeeto. As far as Demon Command Evolution bait, I think he's not too bad as well, and only costing 5 and not having any super detrimental effects. But yeah, he's a Slayer blocker in the sense that he can kill a lot of things, but then he also dies. Proclamation of Death for the memes. And, so I see Graveworm here. I do have to shout out how Stompatrons gave us the best survivors, the ones that made the archetype work. So extra points there. Gave us Graveworm, gave us Qtronic, if I can find him, Qtronic Gargantua over here, and it also gave us Factory Shell. So if I were to hazard a guess, I would say that this set has a special place in Andrew's heart. Moving on, in the fireside, we have Bazagazil Dragon, very strong. You guys know I like this guy as a boss card. It's great in control decks, yada yada. Kokolupia, great dragon support, probably the best dragon support card we have in the English TCG. There was a time where I tried to foolishly make a dragon deck without Kokolupia because I was like, it just dies. Terrible idea. Bad, Jason, bad. Comet Missile, great card for rush decks, so that can be pretty neat. Cutthroat is also an interesting card, probably better in sealed format than the try-hard formats we like to play, but I guess he's kind of notable in that regard. Maybe he evolves into Ballast Bodge, primary Evo target. Sort of not really. I don't think he works that well. Anyway. Legionnaire Lizard, a very interesting tap ability card. Probably one of the more interesting tap ability cards introduced in this set. You can give something else speed attacker. So you can actually summon Legionnaire Lizard, attack with him, and then the following turn you can try to summon Bomedius, and then tap Legionnaire Lizard, and then swing with Bomedius. Haven't really made the combo work in a particular deck, but it's just interesting to think about. Phantom Dragon's Flame, another card I'm very fond of. Destroy one of your opponent's creatures that has power 2k or less. Crimson Hammer with Shield Trigger. Power Fighter Magnus, very versatile card. great for rush decks and non-rush decks alike, as with Rickaboos Screwdriver. Man, the fire sieve in this set is actually really strong. You got a lot of superstars here, and this set does quite a bit to improve the rush archetype. Moving on, we've got Charmelia the Enticer, tap ability Dimension Gate. I think this card is better on paper than in practice for combo and setup decks. I don't like it that much. I don't think it tested that well for me, but it pairs pretty well with one of my favorite cards, Fairy Life. Funny that because they're both fairies, but yeah, Fairy Life, you guys know how much I love this card. But yeah, Charmelia the Enticer probably works better in sealed format than not. Alright, I also have to mention, this is the wrong art, but this set gave us the first reprint of Dimension Gate. So search your deck for a creature and put it in your hand. What else am I missing? I feel like I'm missing something. Here. We have Mystic Treasure Chest. Search your deck and take a non-nature card from that deck and put it into your mana zone. I think it's kind of interesting. I don't know if this is a super good card, but I think it's definitely worth playing around with, especially if you're into that whole mana acceleration deal. I don't know. Maybe if you have a particularly sophisticated combo-heavy soul swap deck or something, you might find a way to make this card work. But for now, it's just an interesting honorable mention. So yeah, this is a big set, so this is naturally going to be a longer video. We're covering all the big sets here. For sealed format, you got a lot of interesting cards like Bonds of Justice, kind of like Holy Awe, not really. You have some really janky tap ability cards like this guy, Chen Treg, so tap one of your opponent's creatures. I think in sealed format, that's a pretty powerful effect to have. We've also got some random blockers over there. More blockers, Epimedius, he's a blocker. This guy's actually pretty funny. 4 mana, 8k. This creature can attack creatures that have blocker, and he can't attack players. So, I don't know. I think he works pretty well with Diamond Cutter. I'm kind of tempted to make a Bazooka Mutant Diamond Cutter deck, but that's okay. I'm digressing, so let's not talk about that. Shuka Duke of Amnesia, I think he'd be a pretty fun card for sealed format. When he dies, it's Lost Soul. And yeah, we've also got this guy. I think this guy is quite good for sealed format as well. Instead of attacking, you can put 3 cards from your graveyard into your mana zone. Yeah, so, last but not least, we have Trench Scarab. Can't attack players, but he's pretty darn strong. 3 mana, 8k attacker. So Stompatron's overall pretty good set in terms of iconic cards. It delivers in that department, and it gives us a lot of playable cards too. Next up, Shockwaves of the Shattered Rainbow. Hopefully this doesn't come as a surprise. Now we all know this set is the set to first give us multicolored cards. It also introduces the Silent Skill mechanic, which, while interesting, was something that didn't really take off. Also might save some time. I just realized it lists all the reprinted cards here. Logic Cube, Solar Ray, Spiral Gate, Death Smoke, Phantom Dragon's Flame, and Fairy Life. Looks like Spiral Gate and Death Smoke get a lot of reprints. I feel like a lot of these are very forgettable because most of them aren't playable, and because there's no sentimental value attached to them, like with the base set foils or with the Shadow Clash foils. So just as, the screen is scrolling, these 3 guys are kind of not that cool. This guy's okay, kind of interesting. I'll give him points for that. Core Crash Lizard and Gajira Butte get special shoutouts because they have shield burn effect, as with this guy because he's a dragon, but this guy's kind of useless, as well as this guy. We don't really care about those guys. These light cards, hardly special. King Okwanos, no thank you. It's really just the multi-civ cards that we care about. So Bloom Ericus, why does that happen? Bloom Ericus, Decloaz, Tanzanite, Bombazar, and Techno Totem. I think these are the foils that everybody rightfully remembers the sets for. And they're actually surprisingly playable. So kudos to Wizards of the Coast for it. Oh no, it's not even Wizards of the Coast. Kudos to the Japanese makers of DM for finding that. When it comes to playable cards in the set, there are a lot of random playable cards that can be splashed. Okay, maybe not splashed, but can find their way into specific kinds of decks. Glass Magicula is another awesome Initiate Evolution, 2 mana, 5.5k attacker. Logic Cube, that's the wrong art. Solar Ray, we know about that. Paloelosis, this is a very cool card. Powers up your other creatures, can make sealed format very degenerate, I suppose. But yeah, this is a very solid card overall. Telt the Oracle, weakest card in the English game to the best of my knowledge. So great for rush decks and for evolving into Wise Starnoid. Rapid Reincarnation, interesting card, haven't really found a way to break it. And the more I look at it, the less good I think it is. But yeah, I think it's still worthy of a shout out. Aqua Strummer, I think this guy just pales in comparison to Aqua Hulkus, unfortunately. So let's not talk about him. Recon Operation, why would they reprint Recon Operation? Okay, I feel like that should take points away. Siren Concerto, this is a pretty interesting card. Lets you get very creative with your mana. So put a card from your mana zone into your hand, then put a card from your hand into your mana zone. Could get really crazy there. Spiral Gate, we know about that. Transmogrify, this is on the OCG Hall of Fame. You may destroy a creature, and then you just keep turning over cards for the player's deck, and then you find another creature and summon it in place. So that's how you can get your turn 3 Balmedius, right? What else have we got? Hourglass Mutant, that's a pretty interesting card. Gives Nature and Fire Slayer. Sorry, gives Water and Fire Slayer. I chucked him into our Hydru's deck. Also got Upheaval. This is another card on the OCG list. So as you can see, this is the set where power creep really began to happen, right? So each player puts all cards in his mana zone into his hand, and at the same time he puts all the cards from his hand into his mana zone tapped. So with Upheaval, you can create some pretty degenerate game states where you just lock your opponent out of the game. Zero Nemesis, Shadow of Panic. I think this is sort of playable. Makes everything into Horde Worm, basically. I don't think it's that good, but I think some people really like it. Some more interesting things. Colossus Boost. Choose one of your creatures and gets plus 4k. Okay, I didn't know what that does, but the name intrigued me. Same with Forced Frenzy. So each of your opponent's creatures gets... Oh, okay, it turns everything into Deadly Fighter Braid Claw. I guess if you're running a blocker deck, that kills off your opponent's field. So in that regard, it makes for a good addition to sealed format. Supersonic Jetpack gives one of your creatures Speed Attacker. I think that's pretty awesome. Pairs great with certain boss cards. Don't need to get you to think too hard about that. Fairy Life reprint, we've already talked about that. Haha, Soul Swap. So, we already know how broken Soul Swap is, and this set gave us two of the most broken cards in the game in the form of Soul Swap and Bomb Bazaar. Again, goes back to my talk about power creeping and iconic-ness, blah de blah. I also can't believe I forgot to mention Crystal Spin Slicer, who's becoming one of my favorite Liquid People cards. You evolve him off Aqua Guard on turn 2, and your opponent can't really do anything. So he basically brings what Bark Whip has to the table, but is much quicker. The other cool cards in Nature are... I think that's pretty much it. Thirst for the Hunt gives everything Power Attacker, not so good. I was just intrigued by the low mana cost. Alright, so here we go. The multi-civ creatures, a lot of these are... Okay, maybe not a lot of these, but a couple of these are pretty good. I would say maybe like half of them are good. So we have Estel and Tajamal and Melnia who make their way into a lot of control decks. Tajamal especially is a very easy splash into non-control decks. Gonta is great for rush decks and aggressive kinds of decks, as with Windax. And these last three at the end are also no slouches either. These are great in Beast Folk decks. Sandfist is a hand guard of sorts. And Lucia Lex is great for beating your opponent down with. So, yeah. Now, see, when I'm comparing this to base set in terms of playable cards, I feel like base set actually gives us way more playable cards. Now, base set also gives us a lot more filler, and this set replaces that with more intriguing cards, I suppose. But when it comes to sealed format, I feel like this set pales in comparison to base set, just because you just don't have that many dimensions to the game. So yeah, very surprising that we have base set, the first set in DM coming in at number 1, as you have now gathered, because of the power creep, but I think you will agree with my reasoning. So don't get me wrong, Shockwaves is a fantastic set. It's a very worthy runner-up for giving us all of these iconic and playable multi-civ cards. Gives us a lot of cool toys as well, but this doesn't really make decks we can go back, all the way back to base set, the first set ever released in the DM TCG or even the OCG. So obviously, because it's the first set, we're getting a ton load of mechanics. We have blocker, we have double breaker, power attacker, shield trigger, and slayer. And a lot of these mechanics are very are cornerstones to the game. Like we have shield trigger, double breaker, blocker. I'm not sure if that's something that should give it points or not, but whatever. Naturally, because this is the first set, a lot of the cards will just be iconic by default. So I hate to say it, but I feel like most of, or not all of these cards are iconic in their they're pretty memorable at the very least because people might remember them from their schoolyard days, and I don't know, some of them are just cool in general, like Death Liger. This guy is the master of edge, Liger of death. Okay. In terms of playable cards, this set is very special, and I placed a lot of emphasis on this factor because the cards base set gave us are cards we see throughout the life of the DMTCG, right? Or even the... Actually, no, I can't really speak for the OCG, but definitely the TCG. We have mainstays like Holios, super powerful card. We've got Aquahulcus. Yes, I think you guys are going to start shipping me with Aquahulcus. Please don't. Crystal Memory, I think this is a card that got a lot better as the years progressed. Spiral Gate, yeah, that's pretty good, I guess. Let's not count him, though. Bloody Skeeto, this card got even better with the release of Gonta in the, well, as you guys deduced, the next entry. Gave us Terrapit, because what are you doing if you're not running 4 Terrapits? Gave us Bronze Arm Tribe, also a very important card to the game. Poisonous Mushroom, not half bad either. And Natural Snare, also pretty important. So yeah, this basically gave us Duel Masters and Duel Masters as we know it. I know it sounds kind of redundant to say, but that's the truth. If we're going to take a deeper look into some of the foils, I realized that these are just the super rares. I didn't cover the very rares. We've got... this guy's pretty funny. This guy's basically Phobos, but 1k weaker, so he's strictly worse. Guardian's also a better race than Berserker, but yeah. We've got... King Riptide, I don't think is terrible. 7 mana, 5k drop to 2 cards. Maybe as the game progresses, it's not very good, but at the time of its release, I feel like it would have been decent. We've also got Ballshack Dragon. I guess this is the other iconic foil of the set that's not a super rare. Pretty sure Shobu in the show has one. I know I'm talking about Shobu quite a lot. Gatling Sky Terror, pretty decent stationary boss card, I feel like. I think this guy's kind of underrated. Sure, he's easy to deal with, but if you can't deal with him, he could cause a lot of trouble. On the nature side, nah, these shinies are kind of bad. Thorny Mantra and Tower Shell. Right, so getting into the other playable cards, sorry for the little detour there. We have Emerald Grass, who's basically Sarius. I don't know if I should give points for that, but whatever. We've also got Laura Giga, 1 mana 2k, great for Guardian Rush decks. We've also got Solar Ray, 2 mana, tap a creature. That's not bad in my opinion. Cenotine Jade Tree is also okay. I think this guy's, I don't want to say underrated, but Cenotine Jade Tree has done very well for me in the past. Aquahulcus, we've talked about that. Brain Serum, also pretty good, as well as Hunterfish. Not cards you see in every deck, but I think they definitely serve their uses. Illusionary Merfolk, you guys know I love this card. Marine Flower, also not half bad, I think, if you were to make a Baby Diamond Cutter deck. That did win a tournament if you did see one of my historical deck profiles. Saucerhead Shark, I think this is a very interesting card. It's a board clear for Water of Sorts. I remember rocking this in my high school deck. I ran 2 copies back in the day. It was pretty cool. I might want to retest this guy at some point in the future. Teleportation, also another underrated card. Dark Reversal, Death Smoke, Ghost Touch. I'm not going to bother clicking into them, but you guys know that they're good. And Crimson Hammer, also good card. Deadly Fighter with Braid Claw, mainstay in Rush. Meteosaur, pretty sure this guy was playable at some point. Yeah, it's like a Crimson Hammer with a body. Coral got it so much better. Tornado Flame, also quite decent. And Dimension Gate. Where is Dimension Gate? Dimension Gate's somewhere here. There we go. So yeah, a surprising number of playable cards in the set. Now, don't get me wrong, when it comes to sealed format, a lot of these cards also remain playable. So we have like Miel, we have some bigger blockers, we've got Virtual Tripwire, who's like Solar Ray if you're playing water. Bone Spider's pretty interesting. It's like Bloody Skeeto, so you can have some pretty interesting interactions with it, where you can just attack your opponent because it's big and they can't really get rid of it with Crimson Hammer, and then they have to suicide something into it to get rid of it, but you've broken a shield by that point, so I guess that's pretty interesting. They have a very budget locomotiver in this guy. Swampworm's kind of interesting. Got a lot of boring vanilla creatures and power attackers. But in saying that, I think... Oh, I forgot to mention Rothus the Traveler. I think this guy's pretty iconic, right? Even though I don't think he's very good. But yeah, anyway, so for sealed format, I think base set is actually pretty good, because even though you have a lot of lame filler cards, you have enough different things going on to cause a lot of interesting interactions. You know, I don't want to say it's kind of like the anime, but you get a lot of interesting actions that you wouldn't otherwise get. And I think that's part of what playing a card game for fun is all about. You get to get into all of these wild situations, and then you kind of try to figure out how to maneuver around them. You've got some draw, you got some draw in the form of Aqua Hulka, Illusionary Merfolk. I think there's like 1 or 2 Cyberlords in here, and then you've got Crystal Memory, Brain Serum, and then for mana acceleration, you've got Bronze Arm Tribe, you've got Poisonous Mushroom, you've got Ultimate Force, Mighty Shouter if you want to count him. And you've also got some great shield triggers. You've got Natural Snare, Dimension Gate, Tornado Flame. You've got Terror Pit, Dark Reversal, Spiral Gate, Crystal Memory, Solar Ray, Holy Awe. This set actually has quite a lot going on, so even though it introduces a lot of useless stuff, in the context of sealed format, they actually add value. So because the set gives us a lot of iconic foils, because the set gives us a lot of the cards we saw throughout DM's life, whether super duper playable cards or borderline playable cards, and because it makes for a great sealed format experience, I would say base set is very worthy despite all of the crap that is shoehorned in. So that brings us to the end of our DM Sets Ranked series. I hope you guys enjoyed watching these videos, and even if you didn't agree with all the picks, I hope you could at least appreciate my thought process. It was definitely an interesting project to undertake. Now, I wonder if base set came as a surprise to you. It was certainly an intuitive pick for me, seeing as that all of our decks use the same cards over and over again. But anyway, feel free to leave your rankings of the DMTCG sets in the comments below. We'll see how close our lists are, and thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next video.